Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. I think everybody's pretty excited about robotics for you to be here. So I think Richard made a very good opening speech. So you're probably curious as in what we're trying to do. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring affordable robotics to everyone, which is our main goal. How do we do that, right? So this is our mission statement. Robotou is a blockchain-enabled service robot. So what do we mean by this, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to have a secure and trustless robotic world where business demands and robots can actually come together. So that's one very important part. How do we do this is we're going to bring together a whole fleet of the different individuals, developers, robotics, manufacturer, business demand, bringing it all together. This is very important. How do we do that is what we're planning on doing in 5 years is to allow everyone here to actually own a robot that could go out to work in the real world, where you could actually collect employment and collect wages with it. So how do we do that, right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to have 100,000 service robots. This is very important. It's actually a small country in terms of labor force, very important. So how do we do that is we would have 10 million active participants. As I mentioned, that would mean that there would be developers. That would mean that there would be leasing companies, financing companies, different types of business partners would all be active users on this platform. So with that, we're hoping that we're able to service 30,000 business partners around the world. We're talking about hotels, we're talking about hospitals, restaurants, offices, many other applications around the world. With that, just like McDonald's, we're hoping to provide 100 million services. So I think, I don't know if you guys had a chance to actually, see the robot or actually look at the video before, right? This is important because what we're trying to do is we believe service robot right now is at 0.1, which means that there's still, you hear about robotics every day, but do you actually see a robot anywhere? You probably don't, right? So we believe right now it's service robotics is at 0.1. These kind of robots are very good with repetitive, labor-intensive jobs that human beings that don't want to do. This is the sweet spot where we're going to be very good at. So the restaurant one, I'll leave it up to MJ and Karen to talk about it afterwards. I've listed a couple of interesting applications here because I'm not sure if everybody know what kind of robotics we're talking about. So one thing is, huge in farming. I had a great conversation with a roboticist from Australia. I don't know if you guys know, right? In the agricultural business, if you find one piece of garbage inside, basically the whole brand name, the whole company is gone. So that is a big issue. With these kind of farming robots, what it does is it has computer vision and it would scan the fields to look for garbage. If you see any sort of garbages, it would actually use a robot arm to pick it up. By doing it 2 to 3 times, they're actually able to identify close to over 90% of all the garbages there. So imagine bringing that to China, to different countries around the world with this kind of technology. It would open a lot of markets. The next one I'm going to talk about is airports and offices. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen videos and things about this. What we're talking about is guides that people can actually guide. For example, if you go to a receptionist, it no longer requires a receptionist to take you where you are, but a robot taking you where you want to be. We call this the last mile. So last mile meaning that, like for example, if you go to an office, there's actually food delivery, there is actually mail. This no longer needs to be actually done by human beings, but actually robots doing that would be an awesome application. Hotels, I think majority of people have probably seen this before. There are hotels in China where you would be greeted by a robot. The robot would actually take you to the elevator, take you to your room. Afterwards, if you pick up the phone, when you call, any sort of room service would actually be provided by these kind of robots. And these actually are, high demand robots in this industry. These next ones, hospital, right? Hospital in terms of medicine dispensing, lockers where people could have access cards, those that get it. This is another great application. These two are telepresence robots. So what do I mean by this, right? Wouldn't it be cool if you're right now here using your cell phone, controlling a telepresence robot all the way in Paris, in China, going to a museum, looking at different paintings, doing a whole bunch of cool stuff, interacting with the robot. So these kind of solutions are actually already available. School is another great example. So kids who are actually in hospitals, or they can't actually go to school. Maybe they're disabled. They have some sort of different issues. So what happens is with a telepresence robot, it actually offers the opportunity for these kids to just be like any other kid going to school. So imagine these kind of stuff there. It would be a great, great, great opportunity. This last one is in supermarket. So the latest technology in terms of this is having shopping carts that follow you around in a supermarket. Imagine how cool would that be, right? So what we're saying here is right now, service robotics is at 0.1. With Robotou, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring it to service robot 1.0. So we believe that leveraging what BCG has said, they believe in 5 years, robotics would actually, in manufacturing, would have 16% cost saving. So we made the same assumption on service sector, and we applied to 1%. We believe in 5 years, this is a huge market of $430 billion. So great, great, great market potential. So the next one I'm going to talk about is our business model, right? As I mentioned in the beginning, imagine everyone able to own a robot and allow the robot to actually work in a business setting, providing getting wages or getting different items. That would be such a great thing. So how do we do that, right? We have 3 different items. So one of them is we actually offer a service robot leasing platform. This means that any sort of these kind of robots could actually be costing maybe just a couple $1,000s in Hong Kong dollars, and they would be able to work for any sort of business, which is an awesome, awesome way of lowering your costs. And having a reliable robot doing repetitive jobs, that would be a perfect thing. The other thing what we're doing is we're actually helping business owners to actually source valuable robotics around the world. I've talked to many of you here, I've actually talked to personally. I think some of them are, there's different types of business demand that is required. I've talked to a logistic company, they need warehousing robot. Hotel, I've talked to quite a few as well. F&B, quite a few as well. Actually, all of them actually need their very unique, customized robot for their industry. Robotou can actually help with this. The other thing is what we have is we're going to assist this new robot community to do a full life cycle in terms of robot management. So we're talking about ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Where basically, your robot deployment, the full cycle, we would be very concerned and ensure that it's environmental friendly. We're talking about data management. I think Richard mentioned a great point in the beginning, right? Imagine one of these robots having different ads in the front, right? So that means that there's ad opportunities or advertisement opportunities that could be potentially done on any sort of these robots. How to monetize on it. We're talking about robot and human interaction data, where people can actually develop new robots and innovative ways to use robotic solutions. IP and licensing would all be here as well. So I'm going to end my talk with these 3 KPIs that we're trying to do. So I think for now, you guys know that we're aiming to have 5 years to have 100,000 robots. What would that actually mean to the world, right? I'm pretty sure everyone's curious about this. So one thing is, if you do the math on this, imagine robots working for 24/7, applying to 100,000 robots. This means that it's equivalent to 840 million labor hours. Now that is huge. That is a small country itself. If you just apply minimum wage to it, that is 3.7 billion US dollars. So that is a huge, huge opportunity. Another thing is, I mentioned about data, right? So actually, these kind of robots actually collect quite a bit of data. Now we're talking about operational data. We're talking about human interaction data. This itself, if one robot generates 1 gig of data per day for 1 year, this is equivalent to 30 petabytes of data. That is any sort of Fortune 500 companies would go crazy about these kind of data. Next thing we have is value-added services. I mentioned in the beginning that what we're trying to do is we're trying to have 30,000 business partners, where if there's, for one thing is if there's ads that could be displayed on here, that would be one thing. Another thing I mentioned is robot customization. If we're able to do it for one F&B restaurant, we're able to do it for tens of millions of other F&B restaurants. So with all three of these together, we believe Robotou will be a great ecosystem in the future to bring robotics to everyone. I'm going to leave this to our next speaker, MJ and Karen, to talk more about how the service Robot 1.0 would start. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Charles, for your